It's time for this week's UpLift. 3 ordinary guys that want you to find the freedom that is available by knowing our Lord Jesus Christ. So sit back and enjoy UpLift, brought to you by the Fulcrum Center. Visit our site at thefulcrumcenter.org.
Well, good evening, everybody. And as you can see, if you're watching this on video, we are back in the official Fulcrum Center recording studio.
Yes, we are. 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, we were remote over the holidays, but now we're back live and in person behind the all together. Yeah,
good to be together
behind the Fulcrum table with the Fulcrum cloth. We're back here physically, which is great. So I'm Chad McLeish.
I'm Ian Thornton.
I'm Phil Bliss.
And welcome to UpLift. And tonight we're going to be planting seeds.
I know. I hope you got your farmer boots on.
Right. So it's January, and we're talking about planting seeds.
Right.
You know, we're a little bit out of course, if you're a farmer, you know, you're probably thinking we're nuts, but that's okay. We're going to talk about planting spiritual seeds and all the things that go with it. And it's a really good topic, one that we're all passionate about.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were kind of sharing some things here off camera beforehand and having a little bit of fun at Phil's expense. But Phil's been battling a bit of a sinus infection prior to this interaction that he's had with Ian and I.
Yeah.
But it's going away.
Yeah,
it is.
Watching God heal it.
Yes.
It's really cool.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
We planted seeds in Phil's sinuses, in his sinus cavity. Seeds of healing.
It's feeling better.
Yeah. But there again, and that's that. I mean, we can jump right into that, man. You know, planting the seeds and you're planting with expectation.
Right.
And understanding what you're planting.
So it goes back to faith. I mean, we plant seeds and then we stand in faith for God's promises so long as the seeds you plant are in alignment with his promises and his will. So you seek, my understanding of this is you seek God's direction, you plant the seeds that, you know, is in alignment with that, you stand in faith, and the seeds will grow.
And reap the harvest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to understand that God gives the increase. It's not, and that's the faith, that's the faith part. God's called us to go and do and share, and whatever that seed looks like, and however he wants you to do that.
Right.
But being faithful in going and doing that, and then trusting him, plant and water, and God will give the increase, and then harvest. And that's where we re-engage.
Yes. That's a very good point.
So there's that point of time where it's like, our hands are off of it. And that can be a real struggle because we love to control things.
Right.
Well, I know I do. I don't know about you guys. but we do. We love to control things, and there comes a point in time when God's like, look, hands off. This is my deal.
Right.
This is my deal. And in that, there's that level of trust that we give over to him. And that's where, even too, where we can see our relationship with the Lord grow, because it's the level of our trust really does show the level of and the depth of our relationship with him. Because it's not just with him, it's with friendships, it's with our marriages, it's with our co-workers, it's in all areas. But there comes a point in time in this process that we do step back and we just have our hands off of it, and it's in the Lord's hands, and then we re-engage in harvest time.
Yeah, my grandfather, this reminds me, my grandfather was a farmer, and amongst different things he did, he always had a farm. And we would go out to the farm, and he grew field corn for he raised hogs and cattle and chickens and whatever. But he would plant field corn to feed the livestock. And when we planted the corn, we didn't just sit lawn chairs out and we'll wait for it to grow and watch it.
Right.
Yeah.
You planted the corn, and then you went and did your other things. And so much it is like this, but a little different, and it's kind of the same, but you pray over the seeds that you planted, but you don't have to sit and watch, This isn't like watching paint dry. We don't pray for something and then just sit and watch for it to happen. That's the faith comes in, but you can pray over it, but that doesn't, you go on and do other things and let God work, and then that eventually those seeds will sprout and you'll have the harvest that Phil talked about.
Yeah, I remember the first time I planted a garden. I planted corn, pole beans. I don't know if you're familiar with what pole beans do. Learned a lesson that summer. Carrots and potatoes. And the corn started growing and, saw the little sprouts coming out. And I looked over at the pole beans and they're like twice the size of the corn. And I look at the potatoes and carrots, and of course, nothing. And after about another week, the corn's starting to grow again. It's starting to look like it's going to be corn. The pole beans are already up the pole, and I just was amazed. And I see little sprouts coming out for the carrots and nothing for the potatoes. So spend my time that summer watering it, tending it, pulling the weeds around it as best I could. I didn't want to pull the crops out. And before I knew it, the corn was knee-high by the fourth. Pole beans were in the corn, they were in the carrots, they were everywhere. They're going over to the neighbor's house. And I saw the carrots, I said, that looks like a carrot top. This is good. Yeah. I was ready to pull it out, but I waited, still didn't see anything with potatoes. So we had some raccoon problems and ate most of our corn. I think we got 1 or 2 ears of corn off of it that summer, but the raccoons got the rest, and I guess it was good because they kept coming back. We had so many pole beans we didn't know what to do with. But finally, I was looking at the carrots, and I said, these things have got to be small. I pulled one out, and it was long, it was thick, and I was like, this top of this thing, you wouldn't know. I was expecting a big top to know that it was done underneath. And still didn't see anything with the potatoes. So keep in mind, I had never planted potatoes before. I didn't know what they did. So then one day, the carrots are getting bigger. I pull up the carrots and I look, like, there's potatoes underneath there. And here I dug it up and they're everywhere. Some of them were even rotting because I didn't dig them up soon enough. And that's when I realized, you don't see much on top, but man, were they growing and spreading them about kind of like the pole beans were, but all under the ground. And I didn't know that. So I learned a lot, and God was teaching me at that time to apply it to spiritual things. You can see, we could really spend a whole half hour talking about the fruit that you can see, the fruit of the Spirit, and you will know someone by a tree by their fruit. We could talk a lot about that, but he taught me a lot of things that some things grow faster than others. Beans grow faster than corn, and some things you see more than the others, but they still all grew because of the love and care that was given to them. And when God's giving us love and care, we may see people growing and growing and looking wonderful, but others may be growing beneath the surface and spreading out, and we don't even realize it.
That's right.
So we can't judge by just what we see. And that's probably why God says we walk by faith. Well, one of the reasons why we walk by faith and not by sight. Because, as you always say, Ian, things aren't always what they seem.
Yeah. It also really pushes, I'm just speaking for myself, walking through that, really pushes me on exercising that patience.
Yeah.
Because I've pulled out many carrots that were not done.
Tiny. Yeah.
Well, because I wanted a carrot.
Right.
You know what I mean? And, and it's
Well,
like,
yeah.
I've waited long enough.
Yeah.
And God's like, no. This is where you're trying to take control and to be in control of it. But let me do this work. Let me bring, as the Bible tells us, let me bring the increase. But patience, and applying that to this walk and this journey, my personal journey, or the seeds that He has us plant, has been key, and have actually found it to be very powerful. Patience being a weapon at points, to keep the enemy at bay from the hurry, the push, the chaos, the come on, let's get this done, let's move. and God's like, hold.
Right.
My time is not yet come. I mean,
Right.
some famous person said that. And it's one of those things of really, the Lord's timing is a amazing and beautiful and celebrated thing when you experience it and you see his handiwork much more clear.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And the work is much more effective, and the seeds have grown that much more, and the increase is that much greater.
Yeah, so patience is definitely a key thing, and we can tell people to have patience and let the Lord work with you, but you can get impatient. Yeah. And God had to teach me. And one of the things I remember is he taught me, you don't need to strike when the iron is hot. It's a famous cliche. Everybody knows, strike when the iron's hot. God taught me over the years, let this grow a little more. Let these people, think about whatever they said or what they did. Let it go, and then you'll see the increase. You'll see the fruit. That if you just sit back and wait. If I had jumped in on so many different people's lives and said, do this, could have steered them in the wrong direction. Thank goodness I let the Lord lead me in that. And another thing is, don't do what I did. Took my carrots and went to my neighbor who had been growing a garden probably for 40, 50 years and said, hey, look what I got. He's like, that's great. And he showed me his, which, oh my gosh, longer, thicker, and more plentiful. And I'm like, wow. So you can't compare yourself to others because, and I've said this so many times, that carrots, and I use this in sermons all the time, carrots grow slower than pole beans. When I'm trying to tell people, don't compare yourself to someone else.
Yeah.
Because you may not be a pole bean. You may be a carrot. And they're both tasty and delicious and useful. So your fruit will come. Be patient and don't compare. I used to tell my kids, it's not fair to compare.
Yeah.
It's not fair to compare.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a T-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, until they got older and I compared something and my son goes, Dad, it's not fair to compare. And I went,
oh. I bet you guys are both dads. I bet you just love when they turn it back on.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at yourself in this mirror.
Yeah.
Oh man.
He was right, too. He was dead on that I had compared something I shouldn't have. So.
Yeah. Well, and when you're waiting, when Phil was out in his garden just waiting for his carrots and his pole beans to grow even higher, and he had nervous energy and he's just waiting and he's pacing back and forth. You feel like you got to do something. Well, you can do something. You can pray about it. You can absolutely pray about it. But, another cliche is a watched pot don't boil.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But you can pray. In the midst of, and because we all have these situations in life where you've got that nervous energy, and you don't know what to do with yourself. You just want the end result, and you don't know what to do with yourself. Rather than meddle in the middle of it, rather than go out there with your shovel and try to root around and do whatever, pray about it. You will be doing something effective because you will be, asking God to favor whatever it is that you planted. So you will be doing something positive, and and patience is probably one of the toughest things that we have to achieve, especially in critical situations. That patience is pride, patience, whatever. Those are the difficult things to master when times are tough.
Oh, yeah.
And God, I love what you brought up, Chad, because God is a multitasker, and He'll get us planting these seeds here, and then with our heart being willing to serve and be obedient and not to have to control this one thing, then that frees us up to go plant other places, or to do other things, or even prepare for the harvest that we're waiting for in faith.
Right.
And so there's so many different things that God can lead us into but just that time of, and I go back to what you were saying, Chad, about spending time with him in prayer. You know, you've done what the Lord's called you to do. You've been obedient in that. So spend some time with him. And let go of the I have to, or I should, or if I move this other piece of dirt over here, or just mound up that potato a little bit more, then it's going to produce even better. You know, just those kind of different things that we can run ourselves ragged with. But just to really pull back and spend time with him and just say, you know, what else is it? Is it something, you know, you just want me to spend time, are we just going to spend time together, or is there something else that you would have me to go do, or to be, you know, to be involved with?
So you're supposed to make a mound when you plant potatoes? Anyway, very good point, though, Ian. Very good point.
Just kidding. Pick the bugs, Phil. Just pick the worms. Pick the worms. And a little 7 bug dust.
You know, something you said, though, Ian, I wanted to comment on is when you reap the harvest, you don't always get to reap the harvest yourself.
You don't. That's
Sometimes
a really good
other
point,
people get to reap what you have sown, or you may have moved on and not be able to see what has been sown, but there is a harvest.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is a harvest.
And that's one of the promises. And Chad was talking earlier about promises of the Lord.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, there's a promise there. And it's not about us, you know, getting to reap the harvest. You're exactly right. And I'm really glad you brought that point up, because it's one of those things where it's the Lord's, you know, and some plant, some water, some reap.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's okay, because it's really the body of Christ working together, and people have been gifted and they've been talented to have their talents, and God has callings for each person, and it's just about being in your calling and being obedient with what God's called you to do. And it's okay if somebody else reaps what you planted.
Right.
You know, find that joy in being obedient to do your part, and to take your step in all of it.
Yeah, we kind of touched on that a little bit last week when I mentioned how these people on TikTok and YouTube and such are trying to be somebody else. You know, they're seeing the harvest of these other people, and I want to be that. No, be who God designed you to be.
That's right.
And, you know, Phil's potato plants remind me of something important that God's been talking to me a lot about over the past couple of weeks, is facts versus truth. And, you know, when Phil was out there looking at his potato plants, not really sure what was going on with them, the fact was, above the surface, you know, he couldn't see anything. Facts can be manipulating. You know, facts and lies, that's a fine line between facts and lies. Because you can manipulate facts. Because, you know, Farmer Phil was out there looking at his plants, he's like, oh, these potatoes, look at that little puny little piece of green stalk coming up out of that ground. And that was a fact. The fact was that there was that puny little piece of green coming up above the soil, and that was factual. But the truth was, when Phil pulled that carrot out and realized that the whole ground underneath was full of potatoes, that was truth. And so that's one thing that we all need to really pray over, facts versus truth, because facts can be manipulated. They can be factual, but not truthful.
Right. Well, that's good.
Yeah, and God is going to talk to all of us in this season about that, because there's such a fine line between that. Lies and facts can be, you know, stirred together and mixed together and confused.
You know, Jesus didn't say the facts will set you free. He said the truth will set you free.
That's right. That's right.
You know, and just this past week, I saw somebody, no offense, Ian, but he was a Baptist preacher. Just kidding. No, but this guy, he was out there, though. And I think, please, this is what Baptists believe, tell me, but he was, I'm feeling better.
I was picking on his potatoes, so he's taking it on you.
It's projection, yes. Displaced anger. But no, seriously, this guy was saying that he was trying to present what he was calling the truth, but it was just a fact that was manipulated, just like what you said. And he was basically saying he was trying to prove why water baptism leads to salvation. And the person who was arguing with him was presenting truths, and he even used the word fact. That's what brought this up for me. He goes, the fact is that Jesus did this after he rose again. And I didn't catch really what it was because I turned him off at that point. But that got me thinking, whatever Jesus did, it's in the Bible and it's a fact. But the truth of the matter was not what this guy was trying to present. Mm-hmm. Because water baptism is significant, it's important, it's symbolic, but it does not save you like the blood of Jesus on the cross saves us.
Right. That's right.
So,
yeah, and a lot of times
that's the truth.
when people present their facts to hold on to their traditions.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
And but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just, in the business setting and dealing with legal situations and things like that, you see people use facts to manipulate each other, to try to win arguments.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, that's the difference between, that's a major thing when it comes to our spiritual walk with God, is his truth versus the facts that we see in front of us. We see sickness, we see disease, we see all sorts of things, and those are facts. But we have to overcome those facts with God's truth and his promises.
Right.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's real
exactly
good.
It was good because it didn't come from me, Phil.
That's a fact, isn't it?
That's the truth. It's both a fact and the truth. They can be the same, but they're usually not.
Well, that's okay. Another perfect point that somebody else came up with this, you heard it or read it or whatever it is, but you are now using someone else's planted seed to plant seeds in us, because I never heard of it that way, and that was really good. It's something that now I'm going to use and give credit to Chad, who will give credit to someone else, who will give credit to someone else. So we're just reusing all that God gives us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
And that's harvest.
yes,
Yeah.
That's fruit.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
It really is. And just to watch God bring, as he says, bring the increase.
Yes.
And as Christians, in this season and in the coming seasons, that's where we're going. When we combine love and authority that Jesus had, because that's how Jesus operated. When we combine those two things, and when we overcome facts with his truth, that's when this whole thing moves forward. That's when we move forward.
Yeah.
That's when we start being what the church was supposed to be.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and people don't realize how hungry they are for that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, because there's all kinds of facts on TV and whatever. The politicians get up and they tell you all these things. And, yeah, they may be factual, but it's not the truth. And no matter what the situation is, your doctor tells you facts, but it's not God's truth.
Right.
That's the thing we have to seek. We have to seek God's
Yes.
plan. We have to seek his truth because, people get cancer diagnoses. They get all sorts of terrible diagnoses. And that runs counter to God's plan, which is the truth. So as Christians, we have to use our authority to overcome these facts with his truth.
Yes. Wow. Yeah.
That's where we've got to go.
That's exactly right. I had a situation just the other evening, texts and all coming in and just all kinds of stuff, and I could go back and read through these text strings and take a look at this and go, well, man, this was said, it was this, and this. And I can remember reading through it and just my heart getting, at points, frustrated and irritated. And then at the same time going, okay, I need to calm down and back and forth. You know how it goes. Everybody's been there.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I can remember putting my phone down and going, God, how do you see this?
That's good.
It's not about what I'm reading.
Yep.
It's not about, because I can regurgitate all of these facts.
Right.
It's not about that. How do you see that? Because that's how I need to see it, and then I need you to lead me in how to act or react or not react but I need your perspective.
Right.
And then when I get that perspective, and I could feel it, man, when I got his perspective on it, the power and the authority that I felt the Holy Spirit raise up in me was so much greater than the situation that was in front of me on my phone.
Right.
Because you
It
put
does.
him into it instead of you trying to handle it
Yes,
yourself.
Yeah.
exactly.
That's
Let
right.
go of control.
Yes.
But it was really taking his perspective. God, how
Yeah.
do you see this? What's the truth
Right.
in this situation? And let me be your truth or your tool in this situation from a standpoint of truth. And I've watched it all just dissipate and come into alignment with his heart and with the truth that he shared with me.
That's right. Yeah.
But it is the diagnoses, and I think that's a big thing, because I understand that the Lord is really going to start putting his power and authority on display with sickness and disease.
Yes.
Yeah. He's had
Yes.
enough.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Healing is going to come on to the forefront of the stage like it hasn't been seen since the first church.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of seeing and asking the Lord, so how do you see this, and what's the promise in this situation? And let us move in faith, power, and authority with that, not the diagnosis.
Right. Because he has plans that he wants to get done.
Yes.
Yeah.
He has plans, and we are the vessels for his plans.
We are.
And he's not going to let these things take us away the way that it's happened over the past, 2,000 years or whatever.
Right.
But we are going to be his vessels to do that. So getting back to planting seeds, we need to plant seeds of his truth.
Yeah.
We need to plant the seeds of his truth in all these situations. And
Yeah.
we need to be more bold about it, because that's what he's calling us to do, because this is the season we're in. This is the time we're in.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And speaking of time, we're getting there. We're about right at time. But I do want to share this with you real quick before we go. When I sat down here tonight, I had pressure on my left side, over my eye, my nose. I couldn't even touch my nose because it would just send pain through my body. And now, I did not have a miracle healing because it didn't go right away when we were praying about it. But healing is not always miracles. It sometimes takes time. I'm not completely healed yet, but I know that by tomorrow, maybe Saturday, I'm going to be healed.
Yeah.
Whereas these things would hang on for weeks and maybe even a month in the past.
Yeah.
This thing's going to be gone in a couple days.
Right.
Because God is bringing the healing, because we declared that I would be healed.
And the thing about healing, too, that I've learned is, it's just like planting the seeds, and there's a growing season. So it is with healing in our bodies.
Yes.
And when it
Yes.
comes to healing, we have to speak authority into our body and into the bodily functions, into our organs and all that sort of thing, to speak the authority into it and command it to heal.
Yes.
And it will.
Some of the
In time. We
Right.
have to be patient, and we have to allow the process to work.
right, because there's televangelists that have, smack on the forehead and I'm healed, and
We were going to do that to you.
I know you were.
Yep.
We were really...
We were.
We were hoping it would hang on
Smack
long
in the
enough.
forehead and $100. You may have some.
But what I mean, that's not always God's healing. He
No.
can heal that way if he wants to.
No.
He can heal with a miracle,
Less-
like Jesus did.
Yeah.
Or he can heal over time. When, I don't remember which one it was, but Jesus said, go back, your son is healed. And by the time the man got back, his son was healed. I don't remember if it was the specific one where he was healed right away, they checked the time or whatever, but so sometimes Jesus can put mud on your eyes and you're healed of blindness, or he'll just speak the word and you're healed later that day. Okay? So, and it could be a month. It could be a year. Don't ever give up on healing, because carrots grow slower than pole beans.
Well, and I was going to jump back to that too,
Yeah.
because it's because you don't compare,
Right,
either.
right.
Just because Chad is healed of this and Phil is healed
Yep,
of that,
yep.
and it's took this way and this way, or that way, and it's different ways. It's not this packaged formula.
No.
It's how does
Right,
God
exactly.
want to
Exactly.
enter into your situation and your circumstance. One of the things that I have found the most over of my years of following the Lord and being involved with healings and those type of different things is that God met people where they are. And whatever he did in their healing also spoke to their heart and their relationship with him.
Right.
And it's very individualistic.
Yes.
Because every one of us is different. Our fingerprints are different. We looked at all of those unique things.
Right.
And God, I have seen just God do the same thing in healings. So we can't compare.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the healing oftentimes has to start spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Because if he would snap his fingers and heal you immediately in the physical, it would just come right back because you've got scars, wounds, things that need healed. So he first has to work with your mind, your heart, your emotions, your soul.
Yeah.
He has to work with all those things that will gradually put you in alignment to allow for a physical
Oh,
healing.
perfectly said.
Yes.
Yeah. So
And really, and that what you just shared with that, Chad, really goes back to creation. That God as spirit spoke the physical into existence. It started spiritually. Everything of who we are and what we have and what we see started spiritually in the heart of God.
yeah.
And it was brought into the physical.
Right.
And so just as a point of teaching from the scriptures that goes right in line with what you're sharing.
Right.
That's good.
Yep. Well, this was a powerful episode tonight.
It sure was.
That's awesome.
Farmer
Really
Phil.
enjoy it.
Farmer Phil.
It's great.
Beans and carrots.
Now he played swimming pools
Yeah.
and microphones.
Awesome.
Yeah, microphones. I'll stick to the computer stuff.
But fantastic. Just
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
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 Great
It's really
time
good.
together tonight.
I'm glad we came back to the studio too. I like the camaraderie of being in person.
Yeah.
Not that remote is not bad. It's certainly worthwhile, but this is really nice.
Yeah.
It is.
It's good
great.
to have the flexibility.
It really is.
Yeah, it's good to have flexibility.
is. Yeah.
All right, well, we're past our time.
It is that time.
Yeah, so thanks for joining in.
Yeah, it was great to have you guys with us tonight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Give us some feedback.
Yeah.
Tell us your
Feedback.
gardening story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about your pole bean.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, share testimonies
Yeah.
and prayer requests and those type of things too, because we would love to hear from what you have experienced with the Lord and how He's teaching you, but any even suggestions that you may have.
That's
We'd
right.
love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yep.
And share this video or podcast with someone who you think might benefit from it.
Yep.
Yeah. Plant a seed.
Yep.
Yes. There you go.
Plant a seed.
All right, guys. Until next week.
Blessings.